Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp. Today we've got a review for you of Pepper Grinder, which was one of the more notable games that was featured in the recent Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. It's a 2D action platformer focusing on an interesting looking mechanic involving a drill, but is Pepper Grinder a well seasoned experience, or could it have done with a bit more salt? Well, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. So the game begins then with the titular Pepper being washed ashore and her treasure is stolen. With this in mind, it's time for her to embark on a quest to get it back. It's a very simple cutscene that immediately shows your character's motivation, and it's all the game needs to throw you straight into the action. In terms of the gameplay then, I mentioned that Pepper Grinder features that interesting mechanic whereby you use your drill. As you start, you will find the controls are quite simple, with the left stick to move and B to jump. But as you play through the first level, it introduces the game's mechanics one by one. You can use ZR to activate that drill. Just pressing it will do a quick melee attack, but you'll mostly be using it to drill into the ground. Once you are in the ground, you'll be propelling yourself forwards up onto the surface using the stick to steer. You don't need to hold ZR once you are in the ground, and if you press B as you exit the ground, you will launch higher into the air. There will be platforms and other diggable surfaces higher up for you to reach, so it becomes a case of you needing to build momentum in order to launch yourself high enough. The levels are designed with these mechanics in mind, and it does feel very satisfying when you pull it off. Diving into the ground to launch yourself into some diggable dirt in the ceiling above you, or finding some floating platforms and diving to each one was a lot of fun, and controls definitely felt fluid, making it feel like Pepper was simply swimming in the ground. You are even encouraged to take certain routes, with the game guiding you in how to angle yourself by placing gems in a line for you to follow. These gems you'll find scattered all about the place, either in the ground, in pots or chests, or being dropped by enemies that you defeat. They are used in the shops found on the world map, and you can spend them to buy stickers for an album that you can fill up, or for some temporary extra hit points. You have 4 hit points as standard, lose them all and it's back to your last checkpoint. You do have infinite lives, but dying will make you lose all the gems you've collected thus far since activating your last checkpoint. Gems aren't the only collectibles in the game though, with each stage also having 5 gold coins. These are similar to the Kong letters in Donkey Kong Country or the star coins in Mario. Some will be in plain sight and require some skillful drilling and jumping to reach, while others will require some extra sleuthing to uncover. These are also spent at the shop to buy extra cosmetics, stickers or a gold key, which will unlock a bonus level in that world. Unlike the gems though, once you get a gold coin you have it forever, regardless of any deaths or even restarting a level. I must say that as I played through the game, I was astounded by just how much creativity is shown in using that drill. It wasn't just a case of drilling into the ground, with each level seeming to introduce a new idea, whether it was hitting some bars to shift their position, using the drill to pick up items such as keys or a gun, or activating cannons to blast your way across the stage, again akin to the barrels in Donkey Kong Country. You also have a grappling hook which is used with the Y button to launch onto conveniently placed hooks, which can then spin you around, and you have time then to press ZR to launch in the right direction. One example of how different ideas are used comes in the second world, which is lava themed, and there is a level which involves you drilling through the rocks to avoid a lava fall. Another is a water based level with a volcano erupting in the background, with the lava then landing in the water to cool down so you can safely drill through it. There are many more with food based levels where you're drilling through steaks and pumpkins, and it was lovely to see the amount of variety as you went through each stage despite using that same basic mechanic. To mention a part of the game that could be improved though, I would say that would be the combat. You see, you need to get close to your enemies in order to defeat them, but a lot of the time I would find myself taking damage, and at times it almost felt unavoidable. You are given some extra weapons as you go through the game, such as a gun and other bits and bobs that I won't spoil, and these do certainly help with the combat, but even here there were times when it just felt as if the combat was the weakest element in the game. Each world ends with a boss fight as you'd expect, and they each display a health bar and you'll have to drill into their weak spots whilst avoiding their attacks. I found the boss fights to be the most challenging part of the game, as they should be, and you'll need to work out their attack patterns and strike at the right time. Gameplay definitely does a great job of accentuating just how interesting that key mechanic is of the drill, but still seems to find ways of making it fresh despite the fact you're essentially doing the same thing. Gameplay gets 17 out of 20. Controls are as tight and responsive as they need to be in a game such as this, and they definitely help you along the way, and they get 18 out of 20. Now in terms of the visuals, Pepper Grinder has a 2D pixel art style and looks very simplistic with its character models, but there is still a lot of character here through the world it presents. The different areas in this game are varied and add context to the gameplay, with simple touches such as changing the terrain you're digging through from soil to snow. Although it plays the same, it just feels different. You start the first stage in an underground cave, an area that should be dark and gloomy, but it does look quite vibrant with its use of bold colours and a blue background and sand coloured soil to dig through. After you leave the cave and see a giant walking in the background, it makes you feel as if there is more to this world than meets the eye. In terms of performance, things run very smoothly. There were some parts where it seemed intentionally choppy, such as on certain background details, but I had no performance issues at all, even when there was a lot going on screen. The only glitch I encountered was actually on the final boss, which I won't show footage of, but when I got to its second phase I died, and when I restarted the hitbox was no longer working. Eventually I had to restart the whole boss fight and it worked again that time, but as you can imagine, that was pretty annoying. In terms of the audio, it's simple but quite sublime, to be perfectly honest, accurately matching the theme of each level, with a faster tempo creating a feeling of urgency when needed, such as in the volcano sections, and a slower, more relaxed atmosphere on something like the water stages. Each level begins with Pepper activating her drill, and it has a very satisfying sound effect which you'll be hearing a lot throughout the game. To add to that satisfaction of the gameplay, you'll be hearing the jingling of gems being collected and the drillable walls crumbling. Whenever a game gets these sort of noises correct, the ones that you hear very often, it just adds so much to the experience. Visuals are certainly bright and charming, and it looks like a world you want to explore, and they get 16 out of 20. Audio is incredibly appropriate for each of the stages you go through, and it's those small little sound effects that just feel very satisfying to hear. It gets 17 out of 20. Pepper Grinder costs £13.49 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. For this you are getting an adventure that took me just under 4 hours to beat. Although that doesn't sound like a lot for your money, I should point out that I had a 42% completion rate at this point of finishing the game. There are 4 worlds and each has 4 main stages, a boss stage and that hidden level accessed by buying that gold key. There is a lot more to this though than just simply blasting through it. I mentioned beforehand that there are hidden coins to find in each stage and the stickers to collect, which will add a lot of replay value for completionists. There is also a time trial mode for those of you that like to chase high scores, and I must say it's one of those games where it's completely up to the individual as to how much they want to replay the same old levels. If you're not interested in finding collectibles, obviously take that into consideration, and it will affect your interpretation of the score I'm going to give value in a moment. But for me, I felt there was much more to this than just running through and completing the game, and value gets 18 out of 20. To conclude, Pepper Grinder is a really fun action platformer that takes a simple gameplay mechanic and gets as much out of it as it possibly can in a relatively short experience. Each level showed me something new and I couldn't help but smile as I realised just how many ideas this team had, and I couldn't believe how versatile they made the simple act of drilling. Despite its short length, there is plenty to see and do, and the collectibles and time trials might just bring you back for more. It's a shame the combat isn't quite as robust as the rest of the game, but the bulk of the gameplay feels so satisfying, and for me there was never a dull moment. Pepper Grinder gets a SwitchUp score of 86%. Thank you everybody for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. Big thank you to Dave Morrish of Game It Up for writing this one for us. I'll put a link to his channel in the top pinned comment. Please do check it out. And don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick this game up, or any other game for that matter, you can get your eShop cards via our website switchup.gg, and you get yourself 5% back in cash back for doing so. There's also some links down there for physical games. We've got premium edition games down there. That's an affiliate link, so it does help the channel out if you use it. And there are also links to PlayAsia and Red Art Games, and there are discount codes down there for you to save you a bit of money. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.